Yo, what's good, everybody? I'm rhicky28. Welcome to the YouTube channel. This next roster update is gonna be something different. I believe it's gonna be the biggest roster update of the year, and if it's not this week, it's gonna be the next roster update. So if you like this sort of content, make sure you give the video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. This week we're talking about a mix of hitting and defense. One time a year, SDS upgrades defense on the cards in Diamond Dynasty. It turns into the biggest roster update of the year. There's a ton of players that get upgraded that otherwise wouldn't have. It is one of the most exciting ways to make stubs. We're gonna be talking about maybe some hidden gems that have been playing really good defense and have gotten better and have a legitimate chance at an upgrade. The stats we're going to be looking at are defensive runs saved, outs above average, and ultimate zone rating. Those are usually the three stats that SDS really takes a look at and makes their assessments about the defense. The first thing I want to get out of the way before we start talking about defense and hitting, let's talk about the only two pitchers on our list. We got Christian Javier, 81 all the way up to Diamond. It's going to be really hard, but Christian Javier, since the last roster update, has 16.11 Ks per nine. He's given up 2.37 hits per nine and only 1.89 walks per nine. His biggest spots that he needs to improve are walks per nine and Ks per nine. 16.11 Ks per nine has got to get him an upgrade. 1.89 walks per nine is unbelievable too. It is definitely higher than a 57. And truth be told, his hits per nine should go up too. I really honestly believe that Christian Javier could get up to that diamond level. If he doesn't, he's gonna be at least 84, but realistically his stretch over the past 3 weeks has been better than Sandy Alcantara when Alcantara made that huge jump. Robbie Ray is the other pitcher I want to talk about. He's also got a long way to go up to diamond. I don't think he's gonna get there on this update. His numbers have been absolutely incredible since the last roster update. 13.17 Ks per nine, 3.29 walks per nine. His walks per nine are not amazing. They're pretty good, but his Ks per nine should get him a really solid bump. Also, his hits per nine only at 3.29 since the last update. Robbie Ray is in line for a big upgrade at hits per nine and Ks per nine. And honestly, 63 walks per nine, 3.29. It's possible that he gets a little bit of an increase there. Robbie Ray should be a high gold by the end of this update. Now we're on to the fun stuff. The first guy that we're going to talk about is Alejandro Kirk. Another low gold with an outside chance at making it up to diamond. Kirk is among the top 3 catchers in defensive runs saved. He's only at a 57 fielding. You could very easily see that getting a big bump up. His hitting against righties has been 359, and he also has 2 home runs. Where we need to see an increase on Kirk's card is in his power. 2 home runs in the past 3 weeks is pretty good. We might see a nice jump up in power versus right, and we might even see an increase to that contact versus right. It's already up at a high level, so it's gonna be hard to get too high a bump. 359 over the course of 45 plate appearances, 39 at-bats. You throw in that defensive upgrade, and Alejandro Kirk is teetering on diamond. Will Smith is the first gold hitter that we're not going to talk about his defense. His defense is probably going to stay around the same. What we're looking for is an increase in contact versus righties. Well, since the last roster update, Will Smith has been hitting 278 versus righties. He's got himself a couple home runs. 278 doesn't sound like much, but honestly, a 49 contact rating is not good enough for that 278 average. There's a good chance that we see an increase in it. The only issue with Will Smith, his average versus lefties has gone down quite a bit since the last roster update. He's only batted 214 versus lefties in that time period. Will Smith, I'm kind of teetering on whether or not he's gonna make it to Diamond. He should get a little bit of a bump in contact versus right, but he may get a little bit bumped down with the contact versus left. It's not going to take too much of an increase in order to get him to Diamond. Hopefully they don't touch his contact versus left too much because he's been great all year, and an increase to his contact versus righty might just put him over the edge, over the top to go Diamond. Josh Bell has been sneaky good since the last update. I haven't seen a ton of hype around him. He's been batting 318 with a home run and 3 doubles versus lefties, and he's batting 387 versus righties. We can see a very solid increase to his contact versus both left and right. We should see an increase to his power versus left. Again, he's really low. He's only an 81 overall. He should get some sort of an increase to his stats. We're gonna see Josh Bell as one of the high golds that people are gonna start hyping on to get to Diamond maybe on the next update. Jonah Heim's another guy. We're not gonna talk about his defense because he's got amazing defensive stats in the game, and he's been one of the top catchers defensively all year, so those numbers are not gonna get moved. What we're looking at with Jonah Heim is an increase to his power and his contact versus righties. Since the last update, batting 267 with 2 home runs against right-handed pitching. 267, again, you're probably looking at me like that's not really much. Well, Jonah Heim has only a 46 contact rating versus righties. It could see a nice little increase. A 60 in contact usually means that the hitter is hitting at about league average. 267 is above league average. He's only got 46 contact. We should see a solid increase for Jonah Heim. He probably won't go Diamond. I don't see that coming, but a nice little kind of mid increase. Maybe you get him to like an 82 rating. There's a nice solid profit to be made there. We're talking about low golds again. Dansby Swanson has been electric in the past 3 weeks, but the thing we really want to look at is his numbers versus righties. 304 average, 2 home runs, 3 doubles. With the 304 average, we should see a bump in the contact versus righties. With the 2 home runs, we definitely should see an increase in power versus right. He's been in a good spot to get a defensive upgrade as well. He's got 2 defensive runs saved. He's got 6 outs above average. He's only got a 70 fielding rating and a 71 reaction. His ultimate zone rating hasn't been great, so we might not see an increase to that reaction. His fielding could get a nice solid bump. So Dansby, again, is one of those guys that might not get quite there to Diamond, but with a defensive upgrade, he might be teetering on the edge. Abreu, what we're looking for here is gonna be numbers versus right-handed pitching. You can see he's got a 58 contact. He's batted 429 since the last roster update. He has been absolutely killing right-handed pitching. He's only got 1 home run in that time period. He does have 6 doubles. I don't know if we're going to see too much of an increase to the power versus right, but we should see a solid bump to his contact versus right on the season as a whole. He's batting 294 versus righties. If we see his contact versus right increase to kind of match that contact versus left, we might see him reach that Diamond level. It's a very outside chance. Getting a +5 is incredibly difficult. I could easily see Jose Abreu being like an 83 or an 84. The last gold I want to talk about is a tricky one. Xander has cooled off big time since the last roster update. A 143 average with only 1 home run, and he's been hitting really bad against righties, a 139 average. Why is it possible that he gets an increase and possibly goes to Diamond? He's been a very solid fielder, and his fielding numbers are terrible. This is kind of my riskiest play because I definitely see his contact getting a bump down. However, I also see his fielding getting the bump up. I am not guaranteeing anything on Xander Bogaerts going Diamond. If they don't increase any defensive stats or fielding stats or anything like that, well, Xander's actually going to get the bump down. He might be an 81 or an 80. If this is the defense update, like I think it is, well, his fielding is going to get a solid increase up. his contact versus right is not going to take too much of a hit, I don't believe, because it was only a short period of time. He's been killing it all season. With the increase to fielding and the slight downgrade to his contact numbers, we still might actually see Xander Bogaerts go up. Jeremy Pena can do it all. 9 defensive runs saved, 7 outs above average. He's in the top 3 of shortstops in defensive categories. He's also been incredibly hot in the majors. A 429 average, 1 home run, 1 double versus lefties. We should see an increase to both his contact and his power versus lefties. His contact versus righties might take a little bit of a hit. He's only batting 200 since the last update, but he does have 2 home runs. The power versus righties might increase. The contact versus righties might decrease a little bit. The combination of an increase to his defense, his stats versus lefties, and the power versus right should be enough to get him at least a +1 to get to gold. Miguel Rojas is another guy that I like a lot. 6 defensive runs saved. He's got 4 outs above average and a UZR of 2.5. He's in a really good spot. He's one of the top defensive shortstops in the entire league. He's only got 74 fielding and 79 reaction. That UZR should allow him to get a slight increase to his reaction time. The defensive run saves and the outs above average should see a solid increase to his fielding. His numbers versus righties have been pretty damn good. He batted .303 since the last update. He's not really going to see too much of an increase in his power, but I love his chances of getting the increase to his contact versus righties. 429 average versus lefties with 1 home run. We could see a slight bump in both of those numbers. The only issue is that it's only 7 at-bats, and if he continues hitting versus righties, we should see a +3 increase to gold. I can see that very easily with the defensive upgrade. DJ LeMahieu has been very solid defensively at third base. His defensive runs saved, UZR, and outs above average, he's up in the top 5 in all the categories. He's been hitting .306 versus righties since the last update. He only has 1 home run, but with 38 power, that might be enough to increase that power versus right. The .306 average should be definitely enough to get the contact versus righties up. With a defensive upgrade, we could very easily see DJ LeMahieu as one of the newest golds. The only silver pitcher we got on the list is Spencer Strider. 1.5 walks per 9 in his last 18 innings since the last roster update. As you can see, 37 walks per 9. He deserves way better. His hits per 9 also only at 4 since the last update, and his strikeouts per 9 is at 15. Spencer Strider is a lock to go gold as far as I'm concerned. Julio Rodriguez is another guy like Jeremy Pena that can do it all. He's been a solid defensive outfielder this year. His fielding and reaction should both get increases based on the stats. 364 average with 3 home runs versus lefties. We should see an increase to the power versus left, and probably an increase to his contact as well. His numbers versus righties are a little lower than his numbers versus lefties. 286 batting average, 3 home runs, a triple, and 3 doubles. But those numbers are good enough for him to get an increase to both contact and power versus right. Don't look now, but Cedric Mullins is starting to come back to all-star form. 390 average versus righties should give him a very solid increase to his contact versus right. But he's also been a top defensive option in the outfield. I don't know that he's going to have the stats to get an increase. He's already at 80 fielding and 82 reaction. It's possible that SDS feels generous, gives him a little bump to that, gives him the nice strong bump in contact versus right, and we see Cedric Mullins as a gold once again. And the final guy I'm going to mention is Brendan Rodgers. His hitting stats for the past 3 weeks have been absolutely on par with what he's done. He will not see any increase to his hitting. He probably won't see any decrease to it either, but he has been one of the best defensive second basemen in the league. His fielding is only at a 59. His reaction is only at a 62. I think that Brendan Rodgers will get the defensive upgrade. We could see him getting close to teetering on the edge of gold. He should at minimum be a high silver. I know nobody really wants to hear about that, but Brendan Rodgers is my super long shot to going gold. I just felt like it was worth mentioning his defense because I honestly think he's going to get a nice solid increase to it. It was a bit of a different roster update video because we were evaluating the defensive attributes of a lot of different cards. I truthfully believe that this is the one where they're going to finally increase defense for the only time this year. The defensive attributes are going to be relevant for the next roster update if it isn't this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you on the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You guys have a great night.